Gang, it's Brian from FX Billiards. Today I am going to talk about three rail position. Now some of these shots are going to be easier executed than others, but in each situation I'm showing you how to use three and sometimes four rails to get in position for your next shot. Now our first shot is the simplest of the bunch. Here you have a bad angle on the 7 ball to get on the 8, which is at the other end of the table. So you simply use left hand English and come down and get position on the 8. This shot I just used left hand English, but you can certainly execute this with high left, which in many cases is what I'll use. Notice that I held up. I didn't come all the way down to the rail, even though I wasn't going to scratch. Because you need to get an angle on the 8 ball, you want to hold up the cue ball so that you're able to make a play on that 9 in case you're playing 9 ball. So given the situation, I could have come in all the way and had a straight in shot on the 8, but just like most pool shots, you want to have an angle. You learn to make this shot with speed, and over time you'll get really good at it because it's not that difficult a shot. It's something you should really be doing on a regular basis. Now with this next shot, we're going to be throwing you head first into the pool. This is probably one of the more difficult of the bunch. Not the most difficult that you're going to learn today, but one of the most difficult. The reason it's difficult is because you're actually putting reverse English on this shot. What we're doing is we're putting left-hand English on this 7 ball shot because when the cue ball comes off the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th rail, it's going to have running English at that point. The first rail that is coming off of it will actually have reverse English. So the cue ball is spinning towards us, towards this end of the table, clockwise, as it hits the first rail, which actually cuts off some of the angle for us. Once it hits the other rails, the running English picks up, and that's how you get the cue ball around the table. So this is counterintuitive to a lot of people, but your running English is actually picking up on rail 2, 3, and 4 as opposed to picking up on the initial rail that you're making contact on. So review that shot and keep it in mind. It does come up, and it is definitely something you need to know. The next shot is one of those you wish you didn't have to do. We're playing the 7 ball, and it's so close to the 8. We really don't have any way to hold that cue ball up. So we play it with high left English. We come around the table off of 1, 2, 3, 4 rails, and we get in line with the 8 ball, actually after tagging that 5th rail. The reason we had to do this obviously is because the cue ball was not going to hold up and wait for us just because the 8 ball was down here on this rail. Some players might have tried to go up and back, and what that means is playing the 7 ball with reverse English, coming off the other short rail that you're shooting from and coming back down. Now what makes this a better shot is you don't have to worry about speed. I could have played this a lot harder and still gotten in line for that 8 ball shot. So this falls into that category we talk about all the time of moving into line with your shot. Had I gone up and back and managed to do it without scratching, I would have had to worry about playing the cue ball too hard, too soft, hitting 2 rails and bouncing back to the middle of the table. But this shot gives you so much room for error that you're almost certain to get in position. Again, if I had hit it twice as hard, the only thing that would have happened to me is move back in line with position on the 8 ball. So keep shots like that in mind. Okay, gang, we're moving pretty quick, so you might need to review these shots a couple times. But on this one, we're in another situation where we have to go from one end of the table to the other. So we're going to play this with high left-hand English. And this is not an easy shot, especially if you don't have a low deflection cue. So you're playing high left-hand English, coming off of those 2, 3 rails, and moving in position for the 8. Now the reason we don't want to go too far is we don't want to risk scratching, number 1. And also, if we're playing 9 ball, we need to keep in mind you don't want to get straight in on the 8 ball, because if you do, you're going to have a difficult time getting in position for that 9. So you can see a couple of different examples where I played the shot, came off of 3 rails, one case 4 rails, but in each case left a angle on the 8 ball to allow me to get on the 9 in case I'm playing 9 ball. Now, here's a good illustration of what everybody is talking about when you hear our conversations about low deflection cues. The shot that I just took, I want you to watch it again, and you can see that I'm shooting almost directly at my contact point. But when I shoot the same shot with a normal deflection cue, I want you to see where my aim point is, because what will happen is the cue ball is going to deflect off of my cue and actually move to my right by as much as 1.5 inches. And you can see that in slow motion. This is why low deflection is in so much demand. If I did not have a low deflection cue, I would have had to make the adjustment that I did in that second shot just to hit the 7 ball in the right spot. So when you're shooting those long shots with English, low deflection truly pays off. This is a situation where we're almost straight in on the 7 ball, but we're going to play with high left hand English to come off those 3 rails to get position on the 8. And what we're doing is we're going to cheat the pocket as much as possible so that we can create an angle with the high left hand English. If you're playing on a table with super tight pockets, you'll still be able to make this shot. You're not so far from the pocket that you're not going to be able to make the shot cheating the pocket. So use the high left hand English, cheat the pocket, come off the 2 and then 3 rails, move right in line with the 8 ball. This is a relatively simple one. It's simple just like the first shot, but it's one that a lot of beginner and intermediate players just have not developed yet and don't recognize when it comes up. We hate to get straight in on object balls, and this is your great opportunity to find a creative way to get out of trouble. Man, I love this next one. I actually saw Earl Strickland perform this, and here's the situation. You got a bad angle on the 7 ball and you can't go around the table the way we talked about earlier because the 9 ball is interfering with your path. So what you do is you shoot a draw shot here with English to come off the rail. So we're coming off this short rail with running English to come off the long rail and head down table. You can see we move right into our line with the 8 ball, keeping our angle, and we're still able to run out even if we're playing 9 ball because of the angle that we have. This is a beautiful shot. I just love the way that cue ball spins, comes around, and takes the path for us. So it's not a shot that all of you are going to be able to execute, but those of you who have a decent draw shot, all I can tell you is really follow through on this because you're putting so much English on it. It will take away some of the energy from your draw, so make sure you're following through and you're going to be able to execute this shot, if not on your first or second attempt, certainly after practicing it for a while. Now what we have on our next shot is a cluster situation. We're playing 8 ball, but the 8 ball and 7 ball are clustered at the other end of the table. So we're using left hand English to come off our long rail and then our short rails in order to get to the cluster. Now we break it up just enough to run this 8 ball down into the corner pocket. I shot this shot a number of times and it wasn't easy breaking up the cluster after the cue ball traveling so far. But if you just manage to hit most clusters, you're going to find yourself a shot, especially late in the game when there aren't a lot of balls on the table. So more than anything else, you're going to have to break up that cluster. Go ahead and do it as soon as you can. That is a very unique way to get to that cluster. And again, it's one of those shots that you'll be able to develop over time. Now, here's a difficult one. We are playing 9 ball or 8 ball, and we have to get to the opposite end of the table, but the 9 ball is blocking our path, so we can't go forward to get position on the 8. So what we do is we play a draw shot off the short rail and then the 2 long rails move right in line for that 8 ball, and we're all set to run out. So another sample of being creative to get your position. Once we make the 8, we're right in line with the 9. So that's a shot that's going to take some work for a lot of you because it is a draw shot off of 3 rails, but it is something that if you've developed that draw over time, you will be able to execute. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, definitely give us a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe. We have a Q contest going on, and in order to win, you have to be a subscriber. Click the link to get more information, and have a great day.